Hola amigos, bienvenido a mi clase. Espero que están ustedes listos para aprender español hoy y para aprender los imperfectos de los verbos. ¿Listos? Alright, let's get into it, guys. This is Imperfect Part 3, Study Spanish Grammar Lesson, Unit 6, number 69. That's where we're at. Some other people get some credit for making things that I've used, and like the music and the footage and the PowerPoint theme, things like that. But let's get into it. Imperfect, let's start with some review. Spanish has two past tense verb tenses. First is the preterite, and the second is the imperfect. Today we're talking about the imperfect, and most verbs can be put into either tense. Depending on what the meaning is, and not always can that meaning be translated exactly into English, so it's going to take some practice. Generally speaking, though, the imperfect is used for actions in the past that are not seen as complete. For example, I was working in the agency during the day. I used to visit my grandmother every day, and every afternoon I would take a nap. These English phrases, I was working, the past tense to be verb with the participle suffix ing, and the I used to and the would as in something I did in the past. I would take a nap. These are keywords that can point out that the verb you're trying to talk about in Spanish is actually the imperfect. But notice the common denominator between these three examples. What happened in the past was habitual, and if you remember from one of the previous imperfect preterite lessons, it talks about how the imperfect is used for verbs that are habitual. So you need to make sure that you recognize that in the context of the sentence that we're talking about. Okay, when do you use the imperfect tense? One does not normally think of a general mental state or physical sensation as something that has a definite beginning and end. And so because of that, they are often described in Spanish by using the imperfect form of the verb. So, for example, Ramón tenía miedo de hablar en público. Or, yo creía que Juan podía hacerlo. Or finally, me gustaba el coche. Three examples, and let's look at each one in turn. Notice that Ramón tenía miedo de hablar en público. The verb that's in the imperfect tense is tenía, which is the third person singular imperfect conjugation for the verb tener, which is to have. So in Spanish, if you're going to say someone is afraid, they actually say they have fear. So he had, Ramón tenía miedo. However, it's not that he had fear, it's more like he was having, or he used to have, or he would have fear. And fear of what? De hablar en público, of speaking in public. Okay, the next one. Yo creía is the first person singular imperfect form of creer, C-R-E-E-R, which is to believe. And belief has to do with your mental state. So it makes sense that creer would be conjugated in the imperfect form. Me gustaba is I liked or I used to like. And make sure that when you conjugate things in Spanish, you always remember who the subject is, because it's not always the same as in English. I liked, I'm the subject. However, in this case, it was pleasing to me. Whatever the third person object is, that's the subject when you use the verb gustar. And then you, me, is the indirect object. So make sure that you conjugate correctly, because you shouldn't say first person singular imperfect form, the yo form of gustar. You should use the third person singular because you're not the subject. The item that you are liking is actually the one that's pleasing you, so it's the subject. Okay, buenos. Entonces, ¿a dónde vamos desde aquí? Where do we go from here? Learning the imperfect and the preterite differences and when to use which one is not simply a matter of learning a theoretical idea, reading a book, understanding the grammar really well. It's a matter of practice. You've got to be able to try to use it, get it wrong, be corrected, or correct yourself, and then move forward. It's a matter of practice. And really, even if you don't have anybody around you that speaks Spanish, still practice. You can still use it with people, and who knows, you might encourage somebody else to learn Spanish as well. Okay, that's it. I hope that was helpful and clear and concise and not too long. Let me know if you have any questions by leaving a comment below or leaving a comment in your assignment online, and we will work through this together. Adios.